Hi, everybody, and welcome back to yet another cracking installment of the Matt Brown Show. This is the Secrets of Fail series, where we're shining a light on all of our incredible failures in business, the stuff we don't want to talk about. And so with me on the line is none other than Paroon Chadha, the CEO of onboardmeetings.com. Paroon, welcome to the show.
Good to be here. Namaste, everyone.
Great stuff, buddy. So listen, why don't you kick us off with the elevator pitch about Onboard and onboardmeetings.com. What are you guys up to?
Absolutely. So onboardmeetings.com is, the destination site for anybody trying to elevate their governance. So we are a board governance platform used by over 5,000 organizations worldwide. Anything from planning your board meeting agenda, making sure meeting goes well, all the legal requirements of the meeting, including minutes and resolutions, and then thinking about the broader sort of, long-term, vision of the organization and the governance structure. So I'll talk a lot about what I've learned along the way in my journey, but, this is a platform which is highest rated on every single online review site. If you have advisors and you're thinking to move towards a venture-backed environment or private equity, if you're planning to go IPO, all those stages, governance plays a bigger role than most people realize, and I'm here to actually sort of help you and assist you with that. My belief is that every board can be high performing, and our platform is there to inspire and enable that high-performing board and oversight that your organization deserves.
Very good. So what's the problem, though? Is it a case of they're using spreadsheets and Word documents and things like that? Is it a bit of a shit show in terms of like how the status quo? Like, what's the problem there and why is it so acute?
So, being disciplined about your collaboration with your advisors and board is an underinvested area for most entrepreneurs. I know that firsthand. So while it doesn't seem like a big problem, but the fact is the problem that I was confronted with, intimately in my life was that when shit happens, when it hits the fan, you already need a working group, an inner sanctum to be able to deal with that challenge. This could be a tidal wave in the market. This could be a founder challenge. This could be, capital structure not supporting some of the assumptions that you made in your business model. Any of those, you require a great relationship with your board, a top-notch board, an organized, working cadence, so you can be agile when that challenge shows up, which invariably shows up. And the second part, which is sort of, more tangible for everybody, security and liability when it comes to board information. These are real pain points, painfully sort of understood if you're on the wrong side of these. So the reason why we know so much about WeWork is because one unsuspecting board member was using his daytime email, and because of that, he waived privilege because daytime email is scanned by the corporate, team. And all of that information became public. Your board members and your communication with them needs to be crisp, needs to be secure, needs to have a low liability footprint. And that's actually ensured by a purpose-built application. So whether you come at it from the health standpoint, we need to have a high-performing board, or you come at it from a defensive standpoint, I need to be deal ready, I need to be secure. Either direction, you'll go right back to good governance leads to better performance as an organization.
Yep, really great point. So let's get into the meat and the potatoes of this series. So what is your story of fail for our audience around the world today?
Look, for me, I had a co-founder in the business. My title is co-founder, CEO. And we worked well for a long time, and then we had to pivot in our business when 2008 crisis happened, because every single one of my 300 customers was a bank or a credit union. And we didn't have the right advisors around us. We didn't have the right governance structure. It took me a couple, 3 years to really get to that pivot that we eventually made. I had to part ways with my co-founder through that journey. And under investing in that actually led to a couple, 3 years. So now, we are in a setup where we are one of the scaled up organizations in governance. And we started in 2012. So the time period between 2008 and 2012 was more to deal with the disjointed cap table, deal with having to find the right capital structure. I was bootstrapped for those 4 years as I was trying to buy back equity from my partner. Now, in hindsight, if we had the right advisors and board members, that cycle could have been different. So I learned a very hard lesson along the way in just making sure you overinvest, if anything, in your governance structure.
So what did that experience teach you? What lessons stand out for you, Paroon?
Wonderful. So, the key thing that I learned from this was no business is going to actually be smooth sailing all the way. Every business will run into, whether it's a technology tidal wave or it's actually a macro headwind, a cycle that shows up, and so on. You need to have advisors who actually really guide you towards the next stage of your being. So if you think about your organization's trajectory, your current board suffices for the current setup, but you always need to be recruiting for members outside of that setup for the next stage of your business, whether it is going global or it's a pivot into a different, vertical, different product, or it's actually, going from a VC back to a private equity back setup, whatever those different, changes may actually be. And if you invest early and you continue to do that, almost as a matter of a business funnel, with top of the funnel, you have some members who are skills and experiences matched towards a future state. Middle and bottom of the funnel are people who are closer to your current state, and you work that through. You will be better off when it comes to raising money quickly. You will be better off because, I went through a fundraise process, a couple of different times. Last fundraise was pretty significant. In 3 weeks, you have to pick board members that you want to appoint. You need to have a bench of people you already know intimately, who are on your side, who get your story, who get the company's story. So you can actually kind of take advantage of such, market moves when they are actually there to be taken. I raised money 18 months ago. As you know, that was a great time to be raising money. In part, I was ready for it because the governance structure supported it. But I would encourage everybody to think ahead of your raise, maybe good 12 to 18 months, and overinvest in your governance structure. And I can talk a little bit about it.
Yeah, I mean, who should be on your board? I mean, it's an interesting one. I mean, I suppose the board is almost like an insurance policy on the CEO. Like personally, for me, like I would hate to have a board. I recognize why it's important. But it's for me personally, I hate the idea of being accountable to a board, and having them have the choice to remove me if they don't like what I'm trying to do, But in your experience, when it comes to selecting board members, or you mentioned there's the company you are today, the one you're becoming, what goes into your decision making process around board selection?
Yeah, look, board selection, and I'm going to talk more broadly because I work with 800 banks as customers. I also work with 300, 400 top technology firms which are listed, and they're well past the early stages of the company formation. Whether you're a mature company or you're actually a scale up or a startup, what have you, the same rules apply actually. When it comes to building a board, you need people you can trust. You also need people with the right skills and experience. It's a combination of these three things. So you want a board which is comfortable enough to discuss and trash through some of the tougher things that business cycles tend to throw up. So trust is important. And trust gets built up. No, I don't know 7 people who are great for my next stage. But if I get to know them and invest time, trust is a factor of consistency and time. So you got to put some time with them ahead of the need for them to actually help you. So that's the first thing. The second thing is experience. Experience is actually, if I am trying to get to, 200 million in ARR and trying to go from, where we currently are, that's the next stage for me, then I need people who have experienced that cycle. So they can actually shape and guide and support along the way. And the third element is actually skills. Skills are important. So in my business, this is a security business. When board materials need to be, handled with utmost care, a lot of legality around it. Delivery of information in a secure way requires you to be an expert in cyber and all kinds of different compliance requirements. So there's a skill you need on the board, somebody who's actually done this in the past. Similarly, if you're going to go through a lot of M&A, you need M&A experts on your board. Similarly, if you are going to go global, which in our case, we are in 60 countries, you're going to need somebody who has the go-to-market, framework to help you sort of, export, what you've done in one geo. So all of those are examples of people who have specific skills, often legal, finance, compliance. These are skills you can't hire, but you can actually have advice around the boardroom. And so you have to continue to scout and build up that, and your entire board should help you with that as well. But that's the way to think about future-proofing your advisory, bench. And some of those end up as board members. Some of them end up as, like I have a CEO coach. I'll give you a fun story. I asked my board, I'm not going to hit 100 million in run rate because there's nobody in this room who's ever hit 100 million in run rate. And while there was awkward silence after that, one of the board members introduced me to a gentleman who was a chief revenue officer of a company that had scaled well beyond 100. And that gentleman, Eric, is now my executive coach. So we struck a great relationship. He's been a friend and a guide, last 3 years. Now, of course, my board has plenty more experience. But, at that time, asking that question and working through the future state of the organization is what it comes down to.
Yeah, beautiful. So let's go back in time. If you could go back in time in the Matt Brown Show time machine, Paroon, what would you do differently in the context of board selection?
Look, I think, one of the things that one has to be clear about is you should have a long-term strategy planned out, and you should think about at every stage what input points you're going to need. Then you should do a board modeling. It's a pretty simple exercise. Put it on a spreadsheet, different board members, what's their term and what's their tenure and what's experience and what skills. Now, if you buy a platform like ours, they come with these modeling tools, but you can do this in an Excel as well. When you think about, we are going to go from, currently we are in 4 countries, but essentially it's North America, EMEA, and APAC. Those are the 3 regions. EMEA and APAC, we don't have, we have sales and, customer success, talent actually in those offices. If I want to actually recruit talent in Ireland and take advantage of some of the local benefits of Ireland, UK, or invest heavily in Germany, I need to have somebody who's very well versed. And I didn't do that exercise. So it starts with your long-term strategy, goes into who do you have as advisors, where are the gaps, and if you did that, you will quickly see that your product strategy expertise will show up on the board. You'll also see the capital structure experts will also show up. I bootstrapped for a little longer than what I should have. The trade-off for an entrepreneur like me is always, growth rate versus, profitability. So when you are running a bootstrap shop, you really are trying to break even at the highest possible number every year. That's really all you're doing. You're trying to not bleed money. Whatever money you make, you put it back. You stymie your growth. So if I had the right advisors, I think I would have made the capital, structure change sooner, and I would have actually sort of, accelerated my cycle faster. I think in the end remains to be seen how that actually truly matters. But I do believe governance and diversity and inclusion in the boardroom is a decade-defining priority in the business world today. You see that every day. We are in line to take advantage of that. We were actually ready to take advantage of all board meetings going virtual, when the pandemic broke out. But the early throws, we were a little slower. And, while we are around now for 10 years in this current setup, I think I lost a little time. And that's the lesson that I learned. So, my advice to everybody would be get the right advisors, map out the future state as, sometimes it gets away from you. You feel like that's too far out, but it's a worthwhile exercise. And then you can check against it every 6 months, every 8 months. And I think that's a helpful exercise.
Paroon, when it comes to your advice to CEOs in terms of failure or the importance of failure in business success, what is your advice to a CEO today?
Look, most CEOs already know this. It's more about falling forward and learning as fast as you can. There are lots of general rule of thumbs and business thesis around, but you have to adapt it to your environment, and the answers are very unique. I would actually, encourage people to actually figure out what 2 or 3 things you are going to actually try and definitively answer for your business in the next 6 months. That should be your relentless focus. I need to take my own advice more often than I'd care to admit. This is a pursuit for truth. Every business has a true north. Cutting out the noise. So we have an awesome product, but product market fit. When you sold it a couple thousand times, you already know that's there. But product channel fit may not be perfect. Market messaging fit may not be perfect. Your pricing, packaging to your market may not be perfect. Those are the kinds of questions that you need to actually sequence out and prioritize and trying to solve. Once you get the snug fit at each one of these different spots, you're clearing out the way to really kind of just, get to, the optimal performance. That's what you need awesome leaders around you for. That's what you need, a lot of data to help you guide through some of this, because the insights from the data could be helpful. That's what you need, great advisors at the board level. This truth-seeking mission should have no sacred cows. I say that as an Indian. Cows are sacred from where I come from. But at the same time, in business, there are no sacred cows. It's a mission to, seek the truth. And in that, focusing on 2, 3, different things that you're trying to discover in a quarter or 2, that should be your, focus as you go along this journey.
Are there any books or tools or resources you recommend other CEOs to use on their journey?
Plenty of books, actually. I go back to a few that I particularly like. I would say Crossing the Chasm remains a good one. If you are in a challenger pursuit where you're challenging a behemoth in your field, Eating the Big Fish is a good one. That's a challenger strategy book. I really like a book recently by the CEO of Pricing .io. It's on pricing and packaging. Wonderful book. I forget the name of the book itself. That's a really good one. But if you go to pricing.io, you'll see that Marcus actually wrote a wonderful book there. I do love plenty of regular books that most people recommend. There's one on execution that I actually made my team read this year. It's actually The Four Disciplines of Execution, Chris McChesney's book, really good on execution, just focusing on execution. You have a good product, good big market, let's go after it. Those would be some of the books that come to mind, top of mind today at least.
All right, fantastic. Well, Paroon, that concludes your time in the hot seats. Appreciate you being vulnerable on the show and sharing your ugly failures. Well, they're beautiful in hindsight. I don't really know. But thanks for being on the show, man. It's been a real privilege hosting you.
You got it, Matt. Thank you for what you do, man. Very helpful. Love your show. Thank you.